G'day guys, how you going? I mean, I can't say this for certain, and I don't think anyone can say this for certain. But our season's going to be over in 10 games' time. And when I think about it that way, and I look at the ladder at the moment, with 2 games outside the top 8, and there's good teams inside the top 8. Yeah, some could fall out, but I'm not going to get into that. We've got to keep winning, obviously. You can't really control what other teams are doing and predict. You just got to keep winning games. There's teams inside the top 8 that we've still got to play. We've got the Western Bulldogs, 1 game in front of us, who are outside the top 9. They're a terrific football team. We've got Port Adelaide are on the same amount of wins as us, who we play next week. So there's so many things that are going to happen. If we keep winning, we give ourselves an opportunity to extend the season beyond the last 10 games. But I'm predicting it to finish once the home and away season finishes. And one thing I do know is I'll miss it. And as much as this has been a really underwhelming season, and there's been periods of time, particularly over the last 5 or 6 weeks, where I have openly said that this is a very painful experience watching this football team of ours, and I'm getting no enjoyment out of it. I'm not looking forward to the games, particularly these types of games against West Coast Eagles and Essendon and even North Melbourne this week. And I've openly said that, almost like wishing the season away, get it over and done with. Let's finish it now so we can get on with whatever changes are going to take place at this football club at the end of the year. Let's do it now. Let's rip the fucking Band-Aid off and let's expose everything and get it finished. And I've got to admit, I've sort of stopped a little bit to reflect on that. And the more I'm reflecting on it is I don't want to wish football away. I do not want to wish football away, and I certainly don't want to wish the experience of following my team away, even if it's just for 10 more weeks, and even if the experience is a little bit painful and not always enjoyable, because I just know once it's gone for another year. It's gone. And I kind of liken it to... I'm kind of likening it to the grind of life, working full time, the pressures of having a family. I mean, that song, everybody's working for the weekend. Everybody's working for the weekend. Everybody is got their eye on their next holiday, their next break from the grind. And we rarely actually just stop and go, fuck, surely you got to find enjoyment in what you're doing, even if it is a grind. Surely, because if you are sitting there constantly just wanting it to end or finish and get it out of the way, move so you can have that weekend or have that holiday that's coming up, then fuck, what are we doing? Next thing you know, you're a fucking old prick like me, and you've never actually sat back and enjoyed and appreciated. What I tell you, appreciate it. Appreciate the fact that we can, or I can. I've said this before, I can actually have a team to follow. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to do. I'll still continue to be savage, if need be. But I don't want this season to finish. I certainly don't. And we've got North Melbourne this week, and I'm seeing a lot of kind of like interest in this game. I'm seeing a lot of interest in this game. The contest and us. The potential changes, the challenges, the fact that I feel North Melbourne are ready maybe to get a bit of a scalp. It's been a bit of we've had a bit of the wood over them. We've won our last 5 against them. I can't remember in my time when we would have won 5 in a row against North Melbourne. I don't think in my lifetime, I'd have to go back through the record books when we've won 5 in a row against North Melbourne. It might have been in that period of the late 60s into the early 70s. I'm not quite sure. It's too, but I don't know. Have to go through the record books. But yeah, 5 in a row against them. But are they closer now? Because they were fucking horrendous. And it's one thing to say Alistair Clarkson, knowing the individual he is, will have him fired up for this game because he sees it at his scalp. But he had an opportunity to have him fired up for the Good Friday game, and they just did not give an absolute yelp. They were fucking horrendous. It's 120 at the MCG, round 15. And it's the first time we've played North Melbourne at the MCG for 21 years. Round 3, 2004. And I remember the game. I remember it like it was yesterday. The thing is, I wasn't at the game. Like, I wasn't there. I was playing football in 2004. I was still playing football. But I thought I was watching it live. Like, I remember it so vividly, the moment, the ending of that game. Maybe I heard someone yell it out from the sidelines when I was playing footy, that what had happened, and then I watched the replay or the highlights. But I remember it. Like, that's 21 years since we've played North Melbourne at the MCG. This is two Melbourne clubs, and we generally play at Marvel Stadium, which is understandable. I think we played them at the Gabba during COVID, which we won. But I kind of like it. It's going to be a bit strange playing North Melbourne at the MCG. I don't even know if it favours us. I mean, you would think we play there a little bit more than North Melbourne, but they might be just generally excited to get to the G because they don't get that opportunity much. And they come off a really positive patch of form, over in the West, where they sold some games. They're a battling club who need to make money, and they need to make money. So they're complete opposites to us. They are fucking blue collar. But that game, like 2004 at the MCG, and both clubs were sort of struggling a little bit there. And we were definitely fucking struggling back in 2004, guys. And that game, like, we had a shit team. It's Dennis Pagan's second year as coach. We've been rammed up the arse by the AFL for good reason, for salary cap breaches with draft picks taken off us. You had a skeleton list with rejects everywhere. Pagan's second year in charge, we won 3 games in 2003, and we had all these players who'd come from other clubs who were just bits and pieces players. And we were taking on North Melbourne, and we were hanging on, and relatively high-scoring affair in warm conditions. And we're up by a point, and the ball was just planted in North Melbourne's front half at the punt road end, and it was only about 30 seconds left on the clock, and you could just feel that something was going to happen. North Melbourne always had this wood on us in regards to these close finishes. I mean, you remember the Malcolm Blight one back in 1977 when he kicked that massive torpedo goal. There was some other really close finishes against North Melbourne where they just got us with a little bit of luck. And he just knew something bad was going to unfold in that 30 seconds because we were hanging on for our dear life. And sure enough, the unluckiest of free kicks against Ryan Houlihan, the ball ricocheted off his heel and went out in the full. I think he tackled Adam Simpson at the time, and the ball, and Daniel Wells, like, Daniel Wells got the ball, and Daniel Wells should have been at our football club. Like, he was a kid, and we should have had him and Brendan Goddard, but the draft picks were taken off us, and he ended up at North Melbourne, and sure enough, 5 points down, 50 metres out, no one thought he was going to kick that goal, not with tired legs, but the ball just sailed and sailed and sailed through and went right through the middle. And I had a look at the team, guys. I had a look at those teams. I'll pop them up for you to have a look. That game back in 2004, the last time we played North Melbourne at the G. There's Adam Simpson. Okay, we all know Adam Simpson, the former Premiership West Coast Eagles coach. Brent Harvey, AFL Games record holder. Shannon Grant, Lee Brown, end up being a Premiership player with the Collingwood Football Club. Daniel Motlop, who's the father of Jesse. And you even go down to Corey McKernan, who was at our club the previous couple of years and won a best and fairest for us, and wasn't getting along with Dennis Pagan, so he went back to North Melbourne. David King was in there as well. Okay, the Fox Footy special comments person, and there's our team there, guys. Heath Scotland had come across from Collingwood, ended up being a terrific player. But look at some of the rejects: Brett Johnson, David Teague, Digby Morrell, Barnaby French, David Clark, Daniel Harford. Yeah, even Scott Camporelli was still playing back then in 2004 before he left to go to Essendon. But anyway, that's the last time we played North Melbourne at the G. Anyway, this game. Let's have a look at it. Won our last 5. Red hot favourites to win this with the bookies. The last time they actually beat us, North Melbourne, was during COVID. Does that sound right? Yeah. And Nick Larkey kicked 7 on Jacob Wiedering, which probably stopped him from having any chance of being an All-Australian that year, because he'd had a terrific year, but Nick Larkey ended up kicking 7 on him. And we beat them by 82 points. No one forgets that 82-point win on Good Friday. And we were very accurate in that game. We kicked 24 goals, 9, and we had 12 separate goal kickers. And as the game progressed, we were just getting on the end of everything. And every player pretty much filled up their boots in the front half. Williams and Curnow, who we should have both of those players for this game, although there's some queries on Charlie Curnow. They both kicked 4. Harry didn't play. He didn't play on Good Friday. And we had 8 goals kicked between our small forwards, Motlop, Durden and White. So, yeah, I think was Will White maybe playing his second game for the football club. Obviously, he was dropped last week for the Eagles game. And Hewitt and Chera, who have been clearly our best midfielders this year, they had a day out with 34 and 28 disposals respectively. And we were dominant for the whole game. We ended up having something like 64 to 39 inside 50s in that game. We won like 20 to 10 out of the middle. And it didn't really matter that Christian Cherry dominated the hitouts, 48 to 32. We still dominated the clearances in that game. We went the TDK Lewis Young ruck combo. So Lewis Young started forward, then gave TDK a chop out in that game, and the North Melbourne went Cherry with Jack Darling, and yeah, as I said, Cherry had 43 hitouts and TDK had 24. And North's most dangerous player in that game was Paul Curtis. He kicked 3. Excuse me. Nick Larkey only kicked the 1. And George Wardlaw was making his comeback after a long layoff with a hamstring injury. And he was really good in that game. And you would expect that he's probably worked into the season since then. And he's a bloody good player, George Wardlaw. And they've got a lot of good young midfielders in North Melbourne. So they're not going to be easy beats in this game. In regards to who played, who won't play this week, so players who played in that game who won't play this time around, obviously Sam Walsh won't play. Elijah Hollands played in that game. Matthew Cottrell played in that game. Will White, will he come back in? Did he play? I don't think he played in the VFL on the weekend. And Charlie Curnow's a test, but you would think Charlie Curnow will play. North won't have Charlie Comben. He's injured at the moment, and no Aidan Core as well, and Darcy Tucker, who all played in that game. But you would think, given their form last week against the Dockers, which was pretty strong, although they didn't get the 4 points, they'll probably go in unchanged for this one. That's my feeling. Although you look at their form at VFL level, they've been good. Although they were beaten by, I think, Port Melbourne on the weekend, but before that, they had a really good win on the road against Werribee. And there's a number of players probably pressing for a call-up. Will Phillips been good through the midfield. Finbar Maley kicked 3. Zane Dersma kicked 3 last week. And even one of their mid-season draft picks in Cooper Trenbath. I think he had something like 10 intercept grabs or 8 intercept grabs last week in the VFL. I don't think Zach Banch, who was their number 2 pick in the mid-season draft, will play just yet. He did have a really good debut for North Melbourne VFL against his old club Werribee, where he kicked 3 goals, but he was a little bit quieter last week against Port Melbourne. He had, I think, 11 touches and kicked a goal. For us, there's no O'Keefe. He's out 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. We can't get Harry back. He's gone under the knife. He'll be out for 6. Walsh is out for 6. Cottrell's out for the season. Cowan is a test, but you would think he'll come through the VFL. And there are a number of players at VFL level who would be pressing for a spot in this team, particularly with the fact that there's no O'Keefe. So Lemmy, Pitnet, that's probably the big one. That's probably going to be the biggest talking point over the next 24 hours. I'm not quite sure, as I'm doing this video, whether there's been any announcements made by the club in regards to a debutant. Sometimes they do. There's a press conference and they'll make an announcement whether Harry Lemmy plays in this game. We've also got Billy Wilson, who's had a really good month. Ben Camporelli's winning a lot of the ball. I don't think he'll come in though. So yeah, they're the, I suppose, the players pressing for an inclusion in this game, and Jordan Boyd as well. I think, he's kind of been overlooked, hasn't he, Jordan Boyd? It's not like his form at VFL level has been bad. It's been pretty bloody solid. They must be wanting to get some games into Matthew Carroll because I don't know. I don't know the reason. What is going on with Jordan Boyd? I understand he had some injuries at the start of the year, which postponed the start of his campaign. But yeah, he's being overlooked and he's contracted for next year. So he's definitely on the outer. Interesting one. Let's have a quick look at North Melbourne's team. As I said, I don't think they'll make many changes. The biggest concern for them is down back. And I know we've got some players out at the moment in our front half. But, you look at Dawson, Toby Pink, Griffin Logue. They're not household names. They're solid contributors. I really like Finn O'Sullivan. I think he's going to be an absolute superstar. But he's only young. We got Daniel down there and Luke McDonald, who, they're going to have to take our small forwards who had an absolute picnic in the Good Friday game, and try and look at the tape in regards to that game, because they were embarrassed on Good Friday. It's not a super defence, but it's held up okay over the last couple of weeks, and it's probably from a system point of view got a little bit better as the season progressed, but it's definitely a weakness. There's no doubt that their strength probably lies through the midfield and their kind of running power. I mean, and the ability of their ruckman to give them first use. I mean, Christian Cherry just goes all day. He's so combative. He kind of bullies his direct opponent. And they've just got a a lot of players who, if they're on their game, they can be particularly dangerous. You talk about Luke Davies-Uniacke. Has he hit his strides this year just yet? Jai Simpkin, the skipper's been pretty serviceable this year, although their supporter base often criticise him. Sheasel, the experience of Luke Parker, and I mentioned George Wardlaw before. And I reckon they've got some players that may just fly under the radar that we don't know a hell of a lot about at the moment. And that's someone like a Riley Hardiman. And they've got, you think about Zach Fisher as well. And there's a little bit of mayonnaise on that, given that he played for our football club. And we know what he can do. He can be a ball winner. He can be a ball winner, Zach Fisher, and he's been in reasonable nick. And they've got some genuine firepower. But one of our strengths this year has been our defence is, for the most part, held up. But Paul Curtis, dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Cam Zurhaar can be dangerous. Nick Larkey, Wiedering's probably had the better of him over the last 4 or 5 times that we have actually met. And they're a solid unit at the moment, North Melbourne. You just get the feeling if their confidence gets up, they could have a good day. They could have a good day. Looking at us, this is the way I'm seeing it, guys. With us, I don't think there'll be any wholesale changes. Binns will remain in the team. 26 touches, got coaches' votes. He won't go out. I think all those small forwards will survive. I think Fantasia did enough to survive. Motlop had a stinker last week, but he was okay the week before. He has not been dropped once this year, and I don't expect it to happen this week. Fogarty kicked 3 goals, and Durden was a sub last week. So could they drop Motlop and bring Durden into the team for this game? We'll just have to wait and see. But the big one for me is what we do in regards to Hudson O'Keefe going out of the team. And this is the way I see it. I'll be extremely disappointed. Not that I think Harry Lemmy's a superstar. And this is not necessarily about going, he deserves an opportunity. I understand the fact that he's hit the scoreboard and he's really improved, all that type of stuff. This isn't about that. Okay, this is about the fact that O'Keefe's been playing predominantly as a forward with just a tiny bit of time in the ruck to give TDK some relief. And TDK thrives on playing pretty much 4 quarters of ruck. That's his go. I don't see TDK as a viable option in our front half. We've been tried before. I'm not saying in this game it's probably, it won't work if you put TDK forward and bring Pitnet in as the ruckman and let Pitnet ruck and then just swap every now and then. I'm not saying it won't work or we're not going to get the 4 points if that happens. What I'm saying, I think it's time, to reward, a forward. A forward who's got genuine forward craft, and that's what Harry Lemmy is. He's a forward with genuine forward craft. He's got good running patterns. He hits up at the forwards, takes marks out in front. There's a beautiful kick for goal. He's a natural forward. And what I do know about Harry Lemmy is he can ruck. He can go into the ruck. So much so that back 2 years ago when he was first drafted and we lost Pitnet and we lost TDK and we had to play some young ruckmen in the VFL. Hudson O'Keefe and also Harry Lemmy, they rotated in the ruck for about 6 or 7 weeks at VFL level. He can ruck. And we're asking is for Harry Lemmy to ruck for about 5 minutes. That's all we're doing. So I would be very disappointed if Harry Lemmy doesn't get a debut. I think the very, very safe option and the conservative option is to bring Mark Pitnet in. It's the feeling I think they will do that, and they'll play TDK forward, but I think that is the soft, boring option. I want to see a natural forward come in to replace Hudson O'Keefe, because that's what Hudson O'Keefe was playing. He was playing predominantly as a tall forward. So that is what needs to happen in this game. Anyway, guys, I'm expecting a win. I'm looking forward to the game. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Speak soon.